Hello, hello, hello. I will be letting people in as the call starts and goes on. I've got a real treat for you here today. Everyone, I've got Karen Commins here. I did that right, right?
You did.
Cummins. Thank
Sounded
you.
good.
I've got Karen here and on a repeat visit because so many people, I think the exact word was heartwarming after your first call. Oh, and somebody said that you had them in tears. So for
I
this,
hope that's in a good way. And
that's always in a good way. That's always in a good way. And I think for this time of year, that's my goal is to, I want our calls to be like fireside chats. I think we could all use a little bit of comfort and friendship this time of year. And I have an interesting subject, everyone. We know the rules. If you have any questions for Karen, I've asked her to please ignore the chat, but I will send it to her afterwards in case you want to leave her a message. But if you have any questions, please type them in and I will ask Karen the question at moments during the call. Since our first call with Karen, okay, now we're all, because of the Narrators Roadmap and because of Karen's well-earned reputation in the business, I think it's safe to say that we're all in a tiny bit of awe. And also, it's a little intimidating because we all know how busy Karen is. And you see the Narrators Roadmap and you see the copious notes that come out of every single thing that she's even within miles of attending. So you assume you better not bother Karen because she's definitely busy. And I got to know Karen after the last call. And there's another side to Karen, and I find it fascinating because I've always been very, very analytical and then always tempted by the other side of things. I guess the nicest way to put it is the woo-woo side. I've always but I've discounted it because I've talked myself, well, but I'm analytical. But, aside from playing the games in LA about visualization and bagging a parking spot, I never delved further into it. And it was astounding to me to find somebody that was so savvy about quantum physics and energy and possibilities, while also unbelievably analytical and sharp and by the paper and her mind would cut through ice. And still, she's even way more, it's taken a little talking me into some of the things because my brain has gone, oh my God, no, that's a little too woo-woo. One of the podcasts I was listening to, I think is the smartest thing on earth. Towards the end of each call, she starts talking to voices. And I feel myself cringing, going, oh, and it makes me want to discount everything at the beginning of the call. But it works. Some of the stuff works. So I think that we don't do ourselves any favors thinking that we're going to discount, I know the secret has become a joke, but positive visualization, manifesting, I don't think it comes from somewhere. And there are scientific basis for it. So could you talk me through your journey with that, Karen? No introductions are needed. If you don't know Karen Commins, really. So Karen, I'm interested in how someone as analytical and sharp and intellectual as you started becoming interested in that stuff. And were you ever a cynic?
say that last part again. Was I ever what?
A cynic. Were you ever?
Oh, sure. Well, and thanks so much for all the kind things you've said. And thanks again for having me on the show because it's just a joy to get to talk with you anytime. And I'm glad we're doing it this way. And let me also just say, when you were talking about listening to the podcast and the person talking to voices, I just want everybody to know that wasn't me talking to the voices.
Oh, no, it's not Karen. I found a podcast from somebody that we had talked about.
Yeah.
And she says some smart things, really smart things that have helped me. But I get then I want to discount everything she says when it comes to a
Yeah.
point that I have a hard time believing.
Yeah. And being very logical, analytical people, it is hard to embrace the woo woo. And that is, I mean, I'll even call it that, the woo woo. It started probably about 30 years ago. And like everything in my life and everything that's good, I think is an evolution. And it's an ongoing process. I mean, whether it's narration or whether it's the woo woo, I mean, it's all an evolutionary thing. And I think part of what makes us discount it is it seems so unbelievable and unreal, and sometimes it even feels unnatural, but it actually is the opposite of those things. But it started with Wayne Dyer, and I can't remember where I first saw Wayne Dyer, but he used to do these things on PBS where they were hour-long specials, and he wrote all these books.
Yes.
And so I started reading what he said, and I watched his specials sometimes. And the thing is, you integrate things little by little in your life. It's not like it's all a big aha and you just suddenly are
Right.
doing all these things. It's
Right.
so like the first thing I started doing from Wayne Dyer, and I do this today still, is he said when he would see a coin on the road, he would pick it up and he would say, holding just a penny, this slightest bit of currency that you could have, he'd be looking at this penny and he'd say, I thank the universe for this symbol of abundance and prosperity that continues to flow in my life. And that's such an easy thing to say. And it's just an easy thing to incorporate in your life, that every time you see money, whether it's a coin on the street you found, or whether it's something showing up in your checking account by direct deposit, or somebody sends you a gift card, or somebody sends you some money in the mail, however that money comes to you, when you see it, I thank the universe for this symbol of abundance and prosperity that continues to flow in my life. And over time, I've added to that. I've added the second part of, I look forward to receiving many times this amount and being a blessing to others. Because just me wanting all the money, the universe thinks that's kind of selfish. But if I want money so that then I can spread it out and help other people in whatever way, whether it's boosting the local economy because I'm buying something, or giving to a charitable cause, or however I'm helping other people in whatever means with circulating this money. And even I've added on top of that, so doing Narrators Roadmap, there's a lot of pressure for me to keep updating it, keep adding content. And so now when I see member checkouts, I get an email and I say, I thank the universe for this symbol of abundance and prosperity that continues to flow in our lives. I look forward to receiving many times this amount and being a blessing to others. And I release the weight of responsibility and joyfully create content for the site. And that just makes me feel totally different. It's like, I cannot wait now to create something new for this new person who's just come, or for the person who's renewed. I can't wait to give them something new to help them toward their career. So it really is an evolution, and it did start with Wayne Dyer. But then the more I read of him and the more I looked at this, I was very much into Louise Hay and her book, You Can Heal Your Life. I would start looking at things that she would say, that she would call it dis-ease. It's not disease, it's dis-ease, because so much of our physical ailments are caused by the thoughts we think. And so when you start feeling this problem, I would look in her book and see, where is this caused from? What kind of thing is causing this? And I realized, saying this sounds crazy. This sounds like complete woo-woo, but there's a lot to it. And so she would suggest affirmations for certain things, and I would start saying those affirmations. And the big thing about affirmations is they are rewiring your neural pathways. You may feel like this is not true in the moment, but the more you say it and the more you can say it with feeling, the more that feeling takes hold of you and it becomes your truth.
I think the feeling is, and can I just say, I think the feeling is key. And I always do this. I read a
Absolutely.
book about this woman. She was talking about manifesting. She said the feeling of joy, the feeling of, but then she died a horrible, awful death. So that put me off the book. But then when you talk about affirmations, and I'm always trying to tell myself, because I want them to be true, right? Because who wouldn't want it to be true? I think it's humans have what did you say the other day, a negativity bias. But then that thing about that little rhyme, St. Christopher's medal or something, and I had lost. This is the stupidest thing. And see, and my mouth keeps saying this stuff is stupid, but my brain is like, I redone my room and I lost my wigs. And they're pink, they're bright pink, bright yellow wigs, right? Not the end of the world, but they were from my burlesque days and they were sentimental. They were me being gorgeous, fabulous, Shady Lane with my wigs. And I couldn't find them anywhere. I'd ripped my entire flat apart. I'd redone the room. They were nowhere. They just weren't. And Karen said, do this little St. Christopher thing for a
St.
lost
Anthony.
St.
It's St.
Anthony
Anthony.
for a lost, can't tell I'm born Catholic, huh? St. Anthony thing for a lost item. And I was like, oh gosh, okay,
Well,
thank you,
I've got to
Karen.
tell them what it is. So when it's lost, whatever it is that's lost, you say, St. Anthony, please come round. Something's lost and must be found.
15 minutes, 15 minutes. She told me about it on a walk. I said, can you send it to me in Messenger? I walked in the front door. I read the thing in Messenger like 3 times. And 15 minutes later, I found the wigs. I had been looking nonstop for at least 4 days. I had been stomping my feet, mumbling under my breath, pissed off, looking online for really expensive ones to replace them. 15 minutes. Denise says, I learned Tony, look around. My such and such is lost and can't be found. I said, it literally worked. It's like,
I'm not on that familiar a basis with St. Anthony to call him Tony.
but do you think that the emotion, because it makes sense, doesn't it, in a fundamental way, and it takes it away from the woo-woo when we say, if you expect, and because we only notice a certain amount of thing. Our brain can only notice a certain amount of things because we would go crazy if we noticed everything. So it's the matriculars, I can't remember the name of it, is set up so that we can only notice a certain amount of things. And if we're trained to only notice the negative,
I think
then
it's reticular activation
yeah,
system.
reticular activating system. If we're trained to notice the negative, we're only going to notice the negative. So by theory, you're training yourself to notice the positive, the potential, the possible. So you're overriding society's decision that we should all just be miserable and get on with it.
Well, yeah, that's a big part of it because you're focusing on what you want.
Yeah.
Because one thing Wayne Dyer said is you can't get enough of what you don't want. So it's like when you're sick. If you're sick and you start telling everybody, I'm sick, I'm sick, I'm sick, then you become sicker, it lasts longer because you're putting emotion into this.
Yeah.
And it goes back to that emotion. So if you start saying, I'm healthy, and you don't even talk about what ailments you might have, I'm healthy, I'm fine. I mean, you don't want to, obviously, if you need medical attention, you need to get it. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that if you're going to emphasize something, emphasize the good and the positive. So, yeah, I may not be feeling 100% right now, but I'm healthy. And that's what I want to focus on. I want to focus on what I want, not what I don't want. Keep your eye on the prize. And that's what so much of this is doing. And I think the story with your wigs, and that was funny how fast that they turned up.
It was shocking.
But I think part of it, so like when you were, flinging open all the drawers or whatever you were doing, like, where are they? You're feeling that sense of loss and desperation. But when you just kind of let it go, like, I'm just going to put it out to the universe. I need help finding this thing. So then I feel like you're opening up a different pathway. And then I don't know if St. Anthony's really doing it on our behalf, or if it's just the fact that now you don't have that desperation. Now you have a sense of optimism and positivity, and you're focused on what you want. You're not focused on the loss of, oh my gosh, I have lost my wigs.
Yeah.
You're focused on what I want, and that is I want to hold them in my hand and see them and put them in a place where I know where they'll be safe.
But you're giving
I think
yourself
that's part
evidence
why
of
that one
positivity.
works.
Like you're giving yourself evidence, because I've often thought, when you talk to people that are older, that are having a hard time with getting older, they start to give up. They start to feel like everything's lost. And the world assumes that's because our bodies are deteriorating. We're not as useful anymore. But a lot of it, I think, is because you have been piling up evidence of everything that can go wrong, evidence of things you're scared of. Whereas when you're a kid, you don't have that evidence. You just have this big open wide window of possibility. I mean, kids have bad things, but you haven't been alive long enough to build up all the junk that, all the negative. So I
There's a
think,
lot to that. That's true. And when you
yeah,
say evidence, though, like the first thing you said is our bodies are deteriorating and everything's going wrong.
yeah,
Well, that it's easy to buy in and believe that because that's the message, like you're saying, that society gives us. I don't buy into that. I don't
yeah,
believe that.
yeah.
I think, that I'm strong, I'm capable. And Louise Hay, who's a pioneer in the whole it goes beyond self-help, and it does get into metaphysics and quantum physics. And you said I'm an expert. I'm really not. I've just read a lot of these books. But Louise Hay, who is the founder of Hay House, which has so many of these books and authors and podcasts, they're producing so much of this kind of
Oh my God, I
material.
never put it together. Louise Hay.
Louise Hay. And
Well,
like I said,
that's
she had the book of You
embarrassing.
Can Heal Your Life, but she also had a book that I read called Mirror Work that I recommend all the time. And because she says, stand in front of the mirror and talk to yourself, and talk to yourself in a loving, kind way of what you want for yourself. So I stand in the mirror and I don't say, oh, I'm run down, or oh, I've got all these pains, or this is a problem. I stand in front of a mirror and I say, I'm beautiful, I'm smart, I'm capable, I'm a great narrator, I'm kind, I'm generous, whatever it is. I mean, I just say all these things about myself. And I feel really good saying that about myself. And I feel like there's a truth to that in saying it. I don't feel like I'm lying to myself. Now, if I said something really specific, sometimes I could tell you one of my affirmations, and this has been going on for, I think, 20 years. I am a Grammy winner. And you can say, well, how can that be, Karen? I've looked at all the awards and your name is not there. Well, I would say I may
Only
not
a
have
narrator
narrated the
could have
book that's
delivered
going to
that
bring
line.
this trophy to me, but I can tell you in my heart, I know that I am a Grammy winner.
Yeah.
And I don't know when that's going to show up in my reality, but I know it. It's a question of everybody else doesn't know it yet. That's how I would explain. Now, you could hear me say that and go, this girl is whacked. Well, say that. I don't care, because I believe in my reality and I'm putting it out, casting my words in the direction I want to go. And that's what I want. And I have a placeholder upstairs. It looks like the exact trophy. I have a screensaver on my iPad that has one. So I'm all the time seeing that image and reinforcing that, so that in my soul, in the very depths of my soul, this is what I believe. So 20 years ago, when I first started it, is real easy to talk myself out of it. But now I'm very firmly entrenched in that's what I believe and that's what I know to be true.
But that goes back to your core, doesn't it? Because you would only have been able to have been talking yourself out of it if you were in doubt about who you really are. But the more you worked on it and told yourself and talked to yourself about who you really are, you've
Well,
developed a relationship with yourself, and that's your primary relationship.
and this is a, I'm glad you brought that up because this is it's a daily, sometimes it's an hourly thing. If I start getting in a negative slide, because we all get in negative slides. And sometimes I've had some really bad ones. And you know, social media kind of prompts some of these things because you'll see somebody, oh, I just got a 10-book series, and oh, this author recommended me to 7 of her friends, and now they've all contacted me. And you know, if you're not having that kind of work and that's what you think that you want, it can be very difficult, and it can make you start thinking, and I know this from personal experience, of, well, why not me? Why don't I have the 7 books? Or why, you know, the authors all lined up for me? What's wrong with me? Well, there's nothing wrong with me. And you have to squash that kind of stuff. And so sometimes it's, you know, it's not even a daily thing. It's hour by hour, even minute by minute, to be vigilant about what am I thinking and what am I saying? Because thinking it's one thing,
Yeah.
saying it is something totally different, because when you say it, and especially when you give energy to it, you are giving it life. And so if what I am saying is, oh, woe is me, no publishers are hiring me, no authors are hiring me, and I must be a terrible narrator and nobody likes what I do. Oh my gosh. Well, that's what you're putting out in the universe, that's what you expect, that's what you will see mirrored back to you.
And also your
And
behavior will reflect it as well.
yes, and then it becomes a circular reference, and it you know, it's such self-defeating, self-negating behavior and speech, and we're not even aware of it.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you know, I've had so many problems with this myself. I mean, I am not perfect, but I know I'm a lot better now than I was several years ago. And every day I feel like I get stronger and stronger and stronger and more in alignment with my true self, that knows that I'm a good narrator, I'm capable, I'm highly sought after. My favorite affirmation lately, and this has been working very well, is producers and publishers seek me out for their interesting and high-paying books. And it's amazing to me, like when I started saying that, how certain things just started changing, like the universe, like, okay, if that's what your order for universal room service is, I think I can fill that. But if the thing is, going back to what Wayne Dyer said, of you can't get enough of what you don't want. If you're focusing on something that you think you lack, that lack is going to keep showing up for you. So if you think that I lack publishers hiring me or responding to my emails or authors contacting me or winning auditions, I'm lacking all those things, you're going to keep lacking them, because you can't get enough of what you don't want. You have to focus on what it is you want, and
also,
have that positive energy behind it.
you're right. Oh God, you're so good. Okay. That was right where I was going with that. The energy. Long story. I had an appointment today and everything went wrong. And I was already stressed and knew it was going to be miserable. And I just knew for a fact. And couldn't get a cab. Ended up last minute, had to get dressed out of the house in like 5 minutes. Ended up on a cab and then no cab back. It was like, I can't take the bus. The bus is awful. They're all going to be sick. I'm going to be lost. I'm out in the middle of nowhere. Everyone's sick. Why are they sneezing on me? And
Well, I would wonder about that.
I know. And it took like, the appointment was like 3 minutes. I walked out of the building. There was a bus stop right there. There was no one on the bus. It took me straight to the high street, covered with Christmas lights, brand new store, opened up with like lovely feel good Christmas groceries. And I had a wee stroll through town. Do you know what I mean? And I got home because I'd had to rush out to get the one cab in the whole city. I got home 2.5 hours ahead of my schedule and got to do all my stuff. But I assumed that I knew how the day was going to go, that I knew it was going to be stressful so I brought that energy there and would have ruined it for myself. But even I couldn't ruin that. I mean, even I had to notice everything's literally going well, really, really
Not
well.
only going well, but it's going beautifully because
Yeah.
you said it was decorated. You got to have that delight of the
Yeah.
holiday season. You got to go in a new store and poke around. I mean, sounds like a great
It
day.
was a really good day. And I realized I don't leave possibility open. And a lot of my friends, they're going through bad times or something's wrong or there's illness or there's problems. We assume there, we assume the worst. I none, and I'm like, it could be a happy ending. Maybe it could all work out. It often does all work out, but
It
we don't
does.
notice those times.
Well, and the thing is, we all have problems. We're
Yeah,
human. We have problems.
yeah,
It's the thing that I've learned, and sometimes it has taken a long time to learn this lesson, I will acknowledge, is that focusing on the problem and not the solution just keeps more of that problem
yeah.
surfacing and just keeps you mired in it and keeps you feeling the bad feelings of the problem instead of the possibilities of other solutions.
And why
And so
choose to feel
that's really
bad?
the thing, is to, to think about what you're thinking, what you're writing, what you're saying. And is that what you want? Or is that what you are stuck with? I used to watch Joel Osteen a lot. He's a TV preacher, and I'm not into religion, but I liked what he has to say because he's all about positive thoughts and positive words. And one sentence he has that I love is, you can't talk defeat and expect victory. Because if you're talking defeat, you're going to get defeat.
I wrote
If
that
you
down
want
after you
victory, you
said
need
it.
to start talking in a different way. And he also said, don't use your words to describe the situation. Use your words to change the situation. And I mean, I just get a chill even hearing myself say that from him, because it's so true. You can describe the situation all you want. Oh, I'm sick, or oh, I have this problem, or there was only one cab, or whatever. And the more you describe that and the more energy you put to it, then the more that is your reality. But like yours today, change the situation. Well, I've got plenty of time to get there, and it's going to be easy, and the appointment's going to be quick, and transportation's not going to be a problem, and I'm just going to have an easy day,
I'm
and I
afraid
might
that
even see some
wasn't what I was
surprises.
saying.
Well, I
I
know, but you
can't say
could
out
have, and
loud.
think of how you would have felt differently if you
Yeah,
had.
yeah. I mean, I got it together enough to be thankful when it was clear that even I couldn't ruin the day. It was, but it goes back to what we said at the beginning of the call. Um, I think when we isolate ourselves, like I got out, I was among, really don't like people very much because they carry germs, but I was out and amongst the crowds. I was doing something different. And I do think we isolate ourselves. And I can't tell you the amount of times in the last few months where my brain's tried to go back to my negative, oh, it's a struggle. And they say, look for the helpers. If you're feeling alone or down, look for the helper. There's always somebody out there that has a spark of energy, or that has that one little mindset, even if on a bad day they don't. But there's always somebody and so you're a helper. Jim Siebert, I had a lovely. I've only ever interviewed him on here. It's not like we're like buddies at breakfast together or anything, but he was there at just the right time and said just the right thing. Anna always does. Yeah, you do more than anyone I've ever known in my life. But you help like thousands of people.
But you don't
And
realize how much you help people, so you don't give yourself credit for that.
see, on a good day, I'm a helper, but on a not so
No, but
good
see, you're
day,
always a helper because see, like you don't know when people are watching your shows on in the past shows. You don't know when that's happening. And then you'll
that's what
say
I hope.
something and they'll be like, "Oh God, that is what I needed to hear today."
That's
So
what I hope.
you you know, when you give your talk to yourself in the mirror, one thing that you could say is, "I am a helper." You could say, "I am a luminary." Somebody actually called me that one time and I loved it. And I actually do say that. Now, this sounds very arrogant that I'd sit here and tell all you good people that I tell myself I am a luminary.
That doesn't sound arrogant, though. In light of the conversation, it actually doesn't sound arrogant. Why shouldn't you say that?
But, it surprised me when the person called me that, but I loved that. I loved feeling like the lighthouse shining the light. And that's the thing. We're all shining our light. We're all luminaries. We all have something to share and
Yeah,
something to help other people with. And that's the thing of finding what the thing is and then doing it and giving ourselves credit for it.
yeah, yeah. And the credit part is because I think a lot of people were raised, be humble, don't put your head above
Right.
the parapet, it's going to get kicked off. Or is that the lobsters pulling each other down or the dandelions eating each other? I get confused with my metaphors.
Well,
But
and I think particularly as women, we've been
yeah,
kind of told to squash that light down.
yeah,
In fact, I'm reading this public domain book that I'm going to publish because it isn't public domain yet, but it will be on January 1st. And there was a sentence in there about this. They were talking about this girl who loved to play golf and she was so good, nobody could beat her. Now, this book was published in 1927. And the next sentence was, so she was so good, nobody could beat her. And the next sentence was, it's not womanly for a girl to want to excel. Well, guess what? It's going to be public domain in January when this thing is published, and I'm not going to say that line in that book. I am not going to continue putting that message
good,
out to the world because that's
good.
stupid. It's natural for a woman to want to excel, and we're so good at it. Why shouldn't we?
Yeah,
So if no man could beat this girl at golf, it's because she was good.
yeah,
And I think women for too long have had society tell us that this is not something you should want. You shouldn't want to shine. Well, I'm here to tell you, you do want to shine, and we all shine, and let's help each other shine brighter.
well, abusive relationships, women or men that get in abusive relationships, the thing that you hear a lot, is they were the last person I would have thought would have been in an abusive relationship. They were the strongest woman I've ever met. A lot of times I had no idea it was going on because they were such a strong woman. I would never think it was going on. But the fact is that strength a lot of times is what causes them to become targets, because people that feel destructive or that have issues themselves, insecurities, target that strength because they're threatened by it. And which is a lot of what happens with women throughout the ages. We're threatening,
Oh
which is
yeah.
why we need to be kept in our places. Not to make
Don't
the
get
men
me
on the
started
call
on this.
squirm. Yeah. We love you all. You're narrators. You're like,
Don't get me started on that point because I
yeah,
could just go on an absolute rant because that is true. And
yeah,
we need to turn because yeah, because I have seen it. I think every woman has felt some
yeah,
sort of discrimination from this kind of thing because like I say, don't get me started.
Yeah, and the thing is, we could have this conversation about a lot of things. I mean, that's something
True.
I'm obviously passionate about, being a woman.
Yes,
But we could
same
have this
here.
conversation about a lot of things. There, but I think the key is to ask yourself, if you're being put in your place, whoever you are, what are the motives of the person trying to put you in your place, or the institution, or whatever's behind it? What are they trying to, what are they afraid of? Because it's always, why would you put a weak person in their place? You wouldn't have any need.
And and it reminds me of Byron Katie's book, and I think it's called The Work. And she has 4 questions, which I don't know what 3 of them are at the moment because I wasn't even thinking about this until you said that. But one of the questions is it true?
Yeah,
And so, that's the first thing to analyze is it true? Is what they're saying about me true, or is what I'm saying about me true? And I think I'm going to go with what I'm saying about me
because
as being the
she's
truth
got that
there.
example, her famous example of a mother. Do you know her example, the mother
Who
sitting on
who
the,
did you say?
but I think Byron Katie said that, for instance, say I'm a mother sitting on a couch and my 16-year-old daughter, who has a history of drugs, isn't home, and it's 3 in the morning. And I'm freaking out because she's in trouble. She started using drugs again. What has she done? Or, well, is that true? And I think at the end of the practice, all that was true was, I'm a mother sitting on the couch.
Right.
Right? All the
Right.
other stuff was story. And it's the same
Right.
thing with the health thing. There was somebody you turned me on to again. I can't remember who it was, had a podcast, and she said that she had unexplained illness and they couldn't figure out what it was. And it was chronic and it was getting in the way of her life. And she was in the hospital, but she did somatic healing. And she now asks herself, anytime she has pain or a new symptom, she says, is this physical, a symptom? And if so, like, what level is it on a scale of 1 to 10? Or is this a story in my head? Is this something I'm telling myself about a symptom? Is it true? What does it actually feel like? Because I don't think we realize every single day how much of our life isn't actually what we think it is. We're just on the road.
Well, and the stories in our head, I mean, that gets back to the affirmations because they're a great way to change that story. If the story
Yeah.
is not of your life is not what you want it to be, the first step in any change is thinking something different. And
Yeah.
and I would say think and then write and then speak something different and putting your words out in the direction you want to go, because as soon as, like I said, as soon as you speak them, you've given them creative power. So why not be speaking about what you want instead of this is not what I want?
With the benefit, I've, the thing I think I've benefited the most from, I like to consider us friends now, is that
We are.
from the time that I've known you, the biggest change in my life, and this is directly from listening to you talk, is that before, and I think I just realized this recently, I mentioned it to you, before I was very much coming from that corporate world saying, I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm not kissing these soul sucking people's whatever, and I'm not going to wear beige and behave and act boring. And that was very much, I led with that, and that was it. But that overshadowed a lot of what I did, right? Because you're coming at people going, right, what do you have to say? You have something to say to me? And you taught me that just because visualizing, you can visualize your best self, visualize who you want to be and who you want to get to, but not like it's like over there. I'm the failure over here, and here's my best self way over there. And I just have to do a lot of nasty, horrible things to get to be that best self. It's find the parts of you that are already embodying that best self and just affirm yourself, just get a really clear picture of who you are, who you want to be. Because I'm now, who's going to sound arrogant? I'm a really good narrator, and I can try to ignore the positive things people say and play small, but they're there. At the end of the day, I've got to take myself seriously and visualize and talk to myself as I would a professional narrator that talk, you know what I mean? We're playing
It's,
small a lot of the
yeah.
times.
It's like you always read the stories of the athletes who have prepared for this not only through their physical training, but they've had the mental vision of it for however long. They have seen themselves doing that thing.
Yeah.
So that when they actually do it, they had thought it in their mind 1,000 times. And we always hear those kind of stories, but we don't apply them to us. It's like, well, that's for the superstar
Yeah.
athletes or the superstar entertainers. It's not for regular people like us, but it is for us. And the key is to feel it as though it already happened. And I just did, in fact, I haven't even finished it, but it was this. Mike Dooley is another one of these spiritual leaders, for lack of a better term for them. He writes these notes from the universe every day in email, and I had been getting those for years. And in the last couple of years, I've signed up for a couple of his, or several of his workshops. I did one on affirmations, and I did one on manifesting, which was a lot of fun. And he recently had one on visualizing. And what I learned from this one on visualizing is it's not just this little random thought of this thing happening or that I want. He says sit for 4 minutes a day, maybe a few seconds longer so you can really get into it. And then have this like movie-like experience in your mind of seeing you accomplish what it is you want, or seeing you in the home that you're wanting to have, or seeing you meeting the person of your dreams, whatever it is that you're wanting to attract to your life. You have this experience and speak out loud. So I set a timer on the phone for a little over 4 minutes. And he says, if you make it a ritual, that's better. Like if you're at the same time every day. And it felt so good just for 4 minutes. And I'd sit there and I'd be visualizing. He'd say, put some energy, physical energy to it. Like, woohoo, I got it. Oh, it's happening for me. And anybody walking by would think, she's a loony. But I don't care. Well, the only people walking by, it would only be Drew and the dog. And Drew already knew what I was going to do. So, but it felt so good. I cannot tell you how good it felt. Not only while I was having the visualization session, it's structured visualization, say that fast 10 times, but then afterward, because then my timer went out off and I'm like, oh, wow. And, and I'd be like, well, my life is pretty fabulous as it is, and it's just going to get even better because I know this is coming for me or something better. You always have to say it's this or something better. So you allow the universe to fill in the blanks, and you allow the universe to make things even more than you would have wanted. I mean, my house is a perfect example of this. All my life, I wanted to live in a Victorian Queen Anne house. I love Victorian houses. I love how they look. But you know what's the problem with a Victorian house? It's over 100 years old, and the wiring could be a problem. The plumbing could be a problem. The room spaces aren't modern. They don't have enough closets. And so I realized I don't really want a Victorian house. I like this architecture. I like the roof line.
Yeah.
And so I actually now live in a modern Victorian house. I say it wasn't the house I was dreaming of, but it is my dream house because it's so much better than what I was dreaming of. And I didn't stress or force things to happen. The universe just made this happen in its own good time. So I've only been in this house 4 years, and So you think all my life I had this dream and I could have been in desperation. Oh, when is this house going to happen for me? Am I never going to have that house? I mean, I could have done that, but I didn't. It was just all my life I wanted a Victorian house. And so when we had the chance to move, I said, it's got to have a turret. It's
Like a
got to have a place
castle.
for a pool. Drew said it has to have a kitchen, nice kitchen. And I said, then it has to have, I'm sitting in my studio, it has to have room for a studio. And this house had all of that, and then it had more. So the universe gave me more than I was looking for. Like, this house was wired for sound. I didn't have that on my list of something I wanted, but once I found out it had it, it's like, yes, that's so much better than what I expected it to be. And I have to think about this, because it's real easy to say, well, that was your house, but your career is different. No, it isn't really.
It's
I have
not.
to tell myself this. My career is coming along the same way as the house did. So,
There are so many books. There are so
yeah,
many books.
when it's going to happen, it's not going to necessarily be on my timetable, and it's not
Yeah.
necessarily going to be the way I thought it was going to look. See, that's the biggest hurdles that I've had to get over, is it hasn't been on my timetable, and it hasn't looked like I thought it would look. And in some ways, it's so much better than I dreamed it could be. And it's still an evolving thing. So the universe is going to surprise me with some things. The universe knows what I want. And instead of me saying, well, why aren't they hiring me? Or, what is this? Why? Oh, nobody likes me. Nobody wants to hire me. That is the worst kind of energy to be putting out. So I'm all the time and I don't say I don't slip, because I do. But the thing is, when I start to feel those negative thoughts, you have to immediately switch to some better thought. So instead of thinking, oh, I send all these reach out letters and nobody contacts me, nobody responds, that could send me in a downward spiral. So as soon as I detect I'm having those kind of thoughts, it's like, well, good for me. I sent another one, and I know they get these things, they get tons of them, and one day they're going to come to me, because producers and publishers seek me out. So it just puts a totally different slant on it, and then it allows me to keep going down the path I want to go, instead of thinking of something I think I don't have.
I love the path. Okay, so every year I do like 150 or something goals, New
Is that
Year's
all?
resolutions. I do a lot, because
You
my
need to
theory,
narrow it down.
exactly. But what I realized was the three, one is kind of split into two. The three goals I really, really want, I ignore, because I had negative feelings about my potential of getting them. So what I do is I don't know if any of you do this, but I get really, really excited. I get ideas, I put it down on a piece of paper, and then I go into overwhelm and put it away. I'll deal with it later. And this time there were three goals. And if I didn't test myself and find out if I could do them, I needed to test myself and have a little faith and put them down. So the three main goals, the things that I really want, just three of them. And I put them on a piece of paper. I think you've heard my drama. And I got into overwhelm and I put it away. And then I went back to it and I did pages and pages of detail. And then it was too much. So I just put it away. And I keep going back. So what I'm doing now is, when I get that, I'm walking around, taking a shower, doing other stuff, and I start thinking about ways I could maybe make that goal. When my mind's tricked, it doesn't realize I'm going to catch it thinking about the goal. I grab that thought and go and put it on the piece of paper. So I keep going back to, and I've told myself all of December, I'm going to keep going back and refining these goals. And one of them was, I hate putting myself, I've got a block about awards and reviews. It kind of stresses me out, the audiophile reviews and awards. And I was like, I'm going to put myself out for audiophile reviews and awards. I'm going to get one of those in 2023, either or. So I went to look up how to do the audiophile reviews. And I already had one that I didn't
See, the
know
universe
about.
provided and you didn't even
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. And in the meantime, my
And
brain
it was
was
a great
like,
review, too.
thank you. Thank you. And I was scared. Isn't that ridiculous how we are? I was like, oh God, what are they going to say? It was great. It's like we really are, could be, I'm not saying we are, we can be our own worst enemies.
Can,
Like,
definitely.
who's stopping us getting what we want? Maybe look in the mirror right before you do your affirmations. It's, you know, it,
Well, what's crucial in the process is not being tied to a particular outcome. Wayne Dyer talked about this a lot, about you have to be detached from the outcome.
mm,
Because if you think it's going to show up for you a certain way and on a certain timetable, you're going to be very disappointed when it doesn't happen that way. And then you'll say, well, this whole process doesn't work. Affirmations are stupid. Woo woo is stupid. Visualization, this is the dumbest thing
yeah,
I've ever heard, because it doesn't work.
yeah,
But it does work, because the problem is that the universe is listening and it doesn't know whether you're saying you want it or you don't. It just knows you're talking about this thing.
yeah,
And so it's going to serve it up to you whether you want it or not.
yeah,
So that's why it's so critical that you keep thinking about what you want, but you're not attached to it being this way. My house is a perfect example. If I had to have the Queen Anne Victorian,
yeah.
I
You limit
would
yourself.
never find one. I would never be able to live that part of the dream, because
We're
I
just drawing the outline and then leaving it out and letting
and
it
and
fill
what you're
itself
really
in.
wanting is the feeling you have with that. So, like when I sat down and thought about, well, what is it about a Queen Anne Victorian? I like the roof line. I like the turret. I like that it's got different architecture on it. It's not just a cookie cutter looking thing. So those are like broad things that I wanted, that I liked. Um, and I like it's kind of a simpler time. I mean, I think about that, but when you're focusing on all the feelings of it, that's what the universe is looking at. And so that's how, like you say, it's the broad outline of what you want,
Yeah.
but it is not specifically. Now, sometimes it will be. Sometimes it'll be the mirror image of what you asked for. Don't get me wrong, that does happen.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of times it's not. And I think that we think that if it's not coming to us the way we thought or in the direction we expected, that it's not worth having. Because for years, I mean, I like respect. That's what I work for, is respect. I'll just tell y'all flat and honestly, that's what it is. And I wanted it, like, coming from all the publishers. But where it was coming to me from was the narrators. And I kind of like, well, that isn't what I was asking for. I'm looking over here for it. So, you kind of discount. The universe is like, here is the respect in spades that you said you wanted, but I'm not looking at it. I'm over here, just ignoring that. And it,
I
well,
don't
you
know
can
why I'm
laugh,
laughing.
but
You've
it's
told me
true,
this like
because,
20 times. It's your delivery.
well, because I mean, but it's the thing. You're not looking.
Yeah.
I'm getting what I said I wanted. It just wasn't coming to me in the way and form that I expected it to come.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing. You have to be open to how whatever it is you want shows up for you.
Because
Because,
negativity bias is from when we were running from tigers or whatever animals were killing cavemen, when we were like trying to like stay in the herd and survive. We had to always be, that's why they shout bad news at us every time they get a chance, because if you're walking by and they're trying to sell you news, right, and they say everything's fabulous and you know what, your neighbors are having a great deal on their house and everyone's lovely and so-and-so's got kids, you're going to keep walking. You're busy for work. But if you're walking by and the news is shouting, oh my God, the earth is opening up a crack and we're all going to die, you're going to stop to like figure out how, that's what happened to us in COVID, I think. And I think that's how everyone felt. So like we had to survive. We had to, do something. Something was a threat to us. And I think that's also why we joined in online communities so that we could, because I think it's the fight between our animal selves and our higher nature. I've always thought that. That's what I feel about narrating, art and community and beauty. And I think that that's the only thing we have that saves us from the harsh realities of being born, having babies, and then dying, right? Which is like what the animal nature, but that is what Mother Nature, in my opinion, Mother Nature is not nice. And I can say that because I'm a woman. And the minute you're too old to have children, Mother Nature is not your best friend. She's not in love with you anymore. She doesn't pay much attention to what's happening to your body. She's off looking after the men because they can still give her kids. In my opinion, that's
I
in
don't
my
believe
opinion.
that.
It's a does the men get better looking? They hold on to their health, but women, if you're past childbearing years, Mother Nature kind of, but but
That's a belief you're allowing yourself to buy into, and
but
so
I like that. I love that belief because in my belief, the artists and the dreamers and our higher nature will always win. If we go to beauty, if we rise above that kind of animal negativity, fear, adrenaline, stress, as much as we can, and see the beauty in the world, then we're better than that. Do you see what I'm saying? We're better than our baser instincts. That's my
we
opinion.
are, but that's why I'm saying we have to focus on what we want and not
Yeah.
those kind of messages that we've heard from society, because it would be easy just to buy into that and say, oh well, I give up, I don't have to want anything or try for anything because it's stacked against me and that's just how it's going to be.
Yeah, Melissa says women become goddesses as we age. And saying that, I can't argue with Melissa. She like lifts cars every morning. Yeah, and I've opened a bottle of worms here. Yes. But you've got a very good point. Yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it. That's an interesting way to look at it. So maybe I should stop hating on Mother Nature and unfriending her on Facebook.
Yeah. See, that's the story you're telling yourself. She wants to still be your friend.
I still suspect she wanted kids. Wisdom rains down on us, says Melissa. I think I'm going to start doing that exercise Melissa does because it seems to be working for her. She's like always positive and like you always. I wonder I wonder if, because I find that about Gina Rogers as well, and she does the dance. I wonder if people that do dance or a form of exercise are expressing their positivity through their bodies in the way that others do affirmations. And because I guess if you're working out and working your body, you're telling your body that you love it. You're telling yourself that you value yourself. You need to take a walk, huh? We should all invite Mother Nature to sit at our lunch table. Right. Okay. We should stop talking about Mother Nature because if she is out there and if we are going woo woo, I don't want to make her any madder than I already. I don't know how I turned the conversation, Karen. So, your whole life, have you been able to hold on to this forward trajectory? Or have you had moments of doubt and then found your way back to it? You don't have to
Oh,
give
I've
details.
had plenty of moments of doubt. Plenty of moments of doubt. Plenty of, even though I know better, of writing or saying things that aren't serving my greater good, of falling into the wallowing of what's wrong with me kind of mentality. So I've had plenty of that.
And how have you pulled yourself out of it?
Well, that's what I've been talking about.
Yeah.
That's why I say as soon as I notice it now that it's starting to happen, I have to switch that thought. I have to
So are you
consciously
good at that
choose a
though?
better thought.
Are you good at that though? Even
I
when
am
you're
now.
in the negative space, you're able to tell yourself, no, I have to do this. Is that what you're saying?
I'm pretty good at it now. I have years of practice, so
Yeah.
and that's the thing. It is a practice, and it's a conscious choice, a conscious decision, and it does take time. There's no quick fix. Anytime you're doing this kind of inner work, there's no quick fix to it. It just takes time, and sometimes it's very painful. And I've lived through all of that. And I'm not saying it's not going to happen to me again, because it very well could. That's why I'm saying I have to be very vigilant about what am I saying, what am I writing, what am I putting out to the universe. And sometimes it's exhausting to feel that way. I'll
Yeah.
freely admit that. But I like who I am better when I am thinking, writing, talking in this kind of manner, as opposed to, well, why won't they hire me? Why? And see, even on that score, I've gotten to, well, who cares if they hire me? I don't need somebody to hire me because I can hire myself. I don't need their approval. I don't need their permission. I don't need them to do anything for me.
Yeah.
And that's pretty powerful. So as soon as I start to get into this kind of downswing, I just remind myself of my own power, my own ability, and what it is that I want, and how nobody can, if it's got my name on it, you can't keep me from it.
I love that. I do love that. And I know that we need to wrap up, but I have to ask you, tell me about the harp. How have you always, I think you've told me before, but I'd love to hear the story here. Have you always wanted one? How did that beautiful thing? That's like walking into somebody's house and seeing like a grand piano or something. It's amazing.
Well, thank you for asking me about that. I was always a musician growing up in school, but I didn't have any knowledge really of a harp until 1995, and I thought she was a young girl, but she was compared to me, someone playing it at the Scottish Highland Games at Stone Mountain. And I thought, well, if she can do that, so can I. And so that's when the harp started. I got a harp in 95 and started playing it. And I bought several over time. And so I played till 2016, but it was in the later years, it had gotten very sporadic. And I wasn't playing it often. And I felt guilty because I wasn't playing it. And I thought, we thought we were going to move to Florida. And I thought, I don't want to move the harp to Florida. And so in January 2016, I sold the one I had. And we didn't move to Florida. Guess what? This house is 12 miles from where we used to live, and we're still in Georgia. And there's a Sirius XM escape channel is what I listen to all day when I'm in my office. Remember, the house is wired for sound, so I have it going all day. And the escape channel is beautiful instrumentals, and they play a lot of harp music. They play a harp gliss on their station IDs. And so I kept hearing it, and I've always loved it, of course. And earlier this year, I told Drew, I think I want to buy another harp. And he said, I think you should. And so we did.
Aww.
And it arrived July 1st. And I play it most days. And I make a little harp video of the week, and that is a really wonderful motivation for me to practice, because I know I'm going to make a video on Sunday. So I've got to make something, I've got to practice enough to have something worth videoing. And so that's been really good from that standpoint. And I just love it. I mean, I think it's my happy place. I wish I could sit and play it for 2 hours or 3 hours or something a day, and I don't, but I don't know that I ever will, just because life's so busy. But I love it. And so thank you for asking me about it.
I admire people that play music. I admire musicians. I think it's beautiful. And and just even if you didn't know how to play, that thing is a thing of beauty. That is just gorgeous and
Oh,
stylish.
thanks.
Like I want one, not to play, but just to have. It's so beautiful.
Well, if you had it, I think you'd want to play it.
Yeah, no. I, I took piano lessons when I was a child, and like the teacher had jewelry in big boxes, costume jewelry, tons of it, and like lingeries. So I would like memorize what buttons to push at what time. So it'd be over with. And all I was thinking about the whole lesson was getting to go check out her jewelry and her lingerie. I was like not a good student. I like just don't have it. But I admire people that do. And Karen, I admire you because I think that what I was saying about you having the analytical side and your mastery about, research and recording things and information, that your information management side has it's created this beautiful meld, whereas you've explained to me in a way that I could understand and that my critical side could find a way to believe. Because I think that's the challenge is finding a way to believe if you don't already believe in
Yeah.
anything. I don't care. I mean, religion, guess what religion is, guys? Most of them have prayer. You know, it's find a way to believe in something. And you have helped me personally believe in myself, which
Well,
is
thank you so much for saying that. And that's what I want for all of us is to believe in ourselves and believe in the goodness that we know we're entitled to and that is coming to us and keep working toward that and believing in it because believing in it's what's bringing it to you.
because when we were kids, we didn't doubt it most of the time. When
When
you're a
we were
kid,
kids, we what?
you don't doubt it most of the time.
Oh,
You
you
know
don't
that you
even
have,
think of it.
yeah, you have a place in the world and good things are going to happen. Whoopee.
Exactly.
You know, yeah. And we can create that for ourselves a little bit now. So thank you, Karen. Famous last words. What would you like to leave us with? Do you have anything that you'd like people to take away from the call?
I just appreciate you having me on today, and this has been such a wonderful conversation. I love having these kinds of conversations because I think this is deep and meaningful, and
Yeah.
more people. I think, when we talked about planning this call, I made the comment that I think people spend more time planning their vacations than they do planning their lives. And
You're
so,
right.
what I would hope is that this conversation helps people to want to explore affirmations and visualization and see how they can step into a richer, fuller, more meaningful life. That if we've done that today, I would just feel just I can't even describe how I'd feel, but that's I think been the goal, and it's just a delight to get to have this kind of conversation, and I hope that it spurs more thought and analysis among the audience.
So, all this research you've done, all this that you've taught yourself through your experience, are you ever going to write a book? Of
Uh,
everyone in the world, you've probably already got it written with like in all your files.
it it may be the book that wins my Grammy. Who knows?
You know what I mean? You've got the blog posts, you've
Well,
got it all.
I have my journals. I have Evernote. So like every time I'm on Facebook or any place where I'm writing advice or responding to somebody, or I copy it to Evernote. So
Right, exactly.
I
And you already
have,
could do the audiobook.
yeah,
You would own the
I have everything that I've written,
Yeah.
and it's a lot, but uh, that doesn't excite me at the moment of writing a book because I don't know what my purpose for it would be. What excites me at the moment is the public domain mashup that I've been trying to get to, and that is my first goal in 2023. This is an idea that I've had for more than 2 years. And that's the great thing about public domain, because it just waits for me to get to it. And so that's what I'm excited about at the moment, is finally creating, because it's 3 different books I'm going to mash up.
Oh, that's a
And
good
then of course I'm
idea.
going to do the audiobook, because why else would I want to do it? And and it's a great story, and I'm just needing to carve out some time and make this thing happen. So that's what I'm looking forward to in 2023, is getting that project going. I think the pandemic has taught me. I used to be, and I still am, a planner, but I used to plan things like a year in advance, and I don't plan that far out now. So,
Mm.
I'm only looking 3 to 6 months ahead, and I can tell you in the next 3 to 6 months, writing a book is not on my list.
Well, when you're ready, you got all the material. Because I told
Maybe,
you that
maybe
reading your
someday.
blogs when I first started narrating was a game changer for me. Game changer. I used to sit at that horrible survival job, ignoring the job so I could read your blogs, like literally the whole time.
Well, I'm
So,
glad they helped you and took you
yeah.
to another place.
Yeah. So 2023 goals. I think, yeah, let's look at goals differently this year. Let's choose a very small amount, the ones you really, really want close to your heart, that you really, really want, maybe that you have been afraid to do or don't want to admit you want, or think you failed 100 times. Choose those goals and sit. And if, like me, it's too scary, just go back to it. Keep going back. So it's a
Yeah, breaking
sitting
it down
thing.
into small, manageable pieces is how we get anything done.
Yeah. Yeah. Just make it
And
happen and believe it's going to
and so
happen.
even the biggest things over time, because we've done these little manageable pieces, the biggest things suddenly show up as done.
I heard that, and I want to do it because it makes sense to me, that you're supposed to write them down, I think like 3 times every morning when you wake up. Each goal 3 times. Okay, this person did like 15 goals and you wrote them down 3 times. I'm sorry, I'm not that nuts. But 3 goals, 3 times, handwriting, longhand. Same idea as the morning pages, that if you're writing something in longhand, your brain is connecting to it. It's like what you're saying, say it out
Well,
loud.
okay, there's a couple of parts to this. You do need to write it down, because until you write it down, it's just a wish.
Yeah.
When you write it down, it becomes a goal.
I've got it on a spreadsheet though, and evidently that doesn't count.
It does count. If you've
Okay.
written it down, you've made it some tangible form, it is now out of your mind, and it is a physical thing, and it is now a goal.
Okay.
Speaking it out loud gives it creative power. Now, I would not say you have to do something X number of times. I used to do that. I used to write in my journal, and I'd write this like X number of times, 10 times, 15 times, whatever the prescription was. And I don't believe that, because I think it's much more important to have it written well, and to be talking about it and giving it creative life, and
Yeah.
then
Because my
the
hand gets
repetition of just
tired.
writing this thing down.
My hand gets tired. I haven't had to write anything with a pen in like 100 years. I'm used to typing. I find longhand is like, but if it works, I'll do it.
Well, I love longhand writing. I write in my journal every day, and I think finding a nice pen will help you decide to want to use that pen to write longhand. The
Mm.
benefit of longhand is it slows your thinking down, because if you're
Okay.
typing, it you it's like it's a different transmission, a different neural pathway from your mind to your hand to write something than to type it. And so, I mean, I can put ideas down, I can put them down fast, but it seems like when I write it, maybe a meatier version of itself. All I know is it does slow you down and maybe kind of helps you toss the chaff from the wheat, as the saying goes, as you're actually composing.
Denise says, what type of pen do you use?
I have a number of beautiful fountain pens and roller balls and
Karen
some
Commins, you
ballpoints.
are one in a million.
Yeah, I should show you my pen collection someday,
I love that. I do love that. So not
yeah, a
just the
beautiful
cheapo
pen and a
Bics.
beautiful notebook that you like, or it doesn't have to be beautiful. You could write it on a spiral bound book, or plain piece of copier paper if you wanted to. But I think typing counts. I mean, there are people say, "Oh no, you have to write it longhand." I think the important thing is that you've written it.
Yeah,
You've written it somewhere, so it has gone from being just a wish and a thought in your mind to being a goal on paper that you can now break down into smaller steps and think, well, how am I going to make this goal happen? And what can I do, and what do I need to leave out to the universe to help me accomplish?
I love that. Okay, we've all been given our marching orders, guys. So 2023 is our year. And what better way to wrap up the year than with this wonderful talk with Karen Commins? I said that right, right? Yes. Karen Commins.
Yes.
I'm never going to get it wrong. You are a pure joy. Thank you so much for taking the time to meet with us again. It's been fabulous. And I can't wait to see what we all achieve. Seriously. See you guys back here. End of 2023 will be entirely new people.
Well, I don't know about that. I would like to be the same person, but better.
Yes. And
You
shinier
know,
with possibly some glitter.
maybe some glitz. Yes,
Everything's
definitely.
better with glitter, rhinestones.
Well, I don't know. Glitter gets everywhere, and then you can't clean it up. And I'm not so
Yeah.
much a glitter girl like you are, but I do really appreciate you asking me on this afternoon. It's been a delight and a joy. And like I say, I get wound up on these topics, and I could just talk all the time about it. But I love having this kind of meaningful conversation, and hope people found some use in it.
I think this is the kind of balm for the soul that we need this time of year. I see nothing but shiny, smiling, happy faces in the audience. I think that's what we need. December, we're tired. It's been a long year and we just want to be happy and relax. So, and you've worked miracles. So thank you very much, Karen.
Well, thank you, Daniela. I've enjoyed it.
Bye, everyone. Mwah! Thank you, everyone, for joining. Bye.